Check. Sibilance.
I'm recording, actually. I'll go as far as to tell you that.
Shit.
Yeah.
Holy fucking shit, dude.
I like how Logic always wants to fucking do it to a click right off the bat. Like they don't think that anybody wouldn't record to a click.
Well, why
to
wouldn't
not
you?
to a click? You know?
Yeah, of course.
Are you guys getting this audio or what?
It feels great.
Yeah, feels good.
Shit.
How do you feel, Luke?
Well, I just got a new version of GarageBand. I don't know if it's working right or what.
Well, let's just wing it, I guess.
I think it
Fucking
sounds good
shit.
to me. I got a whole new router and modem set up since our last one. When
And Luke, I want
out.
you to know this, Luke. I got like a really good contingency here where I'm actually recording your audio separately, so I can like if the worst should happen, I got you.
I know we've had some issues in the past.
Yeah, but this time I figured it out.
The beauty of it is that we've all been on the bad end. You know, we've all been to blame at different times for an audio issue.
I don't even mean audio wise. I just mean we've had some issues
psychologically, spiritually.
Yeah, just in the past.
Exactly. I'm gonna just change my screen here to immersive. Oh yeah, that's real nice actually. Luke, you definitely have the best like video. Like, do you have like kind of one of those like? I guess you're in LA, so you probably have kind of one of those like, you know, zoom halos that makes you look.
He's like 5K
sexier.
though. When he moves, it's really smooth. Yeah,
it's kind of like it's not the lens you'd want for sports. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, no,
it's bad.
You want it for sports. You don't want it for like it's the lens. It's the ratio that Tom Cruise was dead against in Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Or if you watch like a classic movie,
yeah,
like Goodfellas or something, and you know when you have that setting on your TV when
Octopus.
it's 2H.
I watched Octopussy with this.
Yeah, that's not. It's
was
weird.
Not good.
It looks like it's shot on Super 8 or something.
Exactly. Are you guys recording?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking this like B-roll stuff's going to be really. This B-roll stuff's going to be really good.
Yeah, we're going.
I think people like the shop talk. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing great, thanks, James.
And how are you, Luke?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna
good to see you guys.
It's really nice to see you guys, and I've got some rice boiling, so I'm just gonna turn it off. Like, just gonna turn it
no
down.
problem. I just want to say that it's really great to see both of you because you're two of my favorite guys.
I want to kind of like run with what you're saying, so you just keep going and keep.
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say is that I can say with total sincerity that I'm most excited about this podcast of anyone we've done, and this is episode 85.
I don't know. I just heard some Beatles one you guys did, and I think you might have left your FaceTime on at the end by accident or something, and you're just talking about how that was your favorite episode you'd ever done.
What do you mean? At the end of the episode, we kept it rolling?
Sounds
at the very end of the Rick Rubin part 1, you were like, "Oh, that was the one. That was the best."
James didn't edit that out.
I don't edit anything.
I'd had about 7 to 10 drinks before we did that one, so that might.
I've never edited anything on this podcast. I don't know if you were under the illusion that there's some kind of editor, unless someone like, I don't know, drop the N-word or something. I'm not editing anything.
Well, I've never heard that before.
No, exactly.
They don't even say that in Canada.
No, so I'm not. There's no editing going on here. I'm really. I gotta say, I've had a long week at work, and I've been working exclusively on the SSL console that Pump was recorded on.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been doing this for about 2 or 3 weeks now. I've had a long week. I'm in such a good mood today. I already saw Johnny. We had a lovely time on his balcony. And now I'm here with you, Luke. And I honestly, I couldn't have had a better day. And it's really nice to reiterate that this podcast particularly, it's just about extending friendship out there to the world. And that's what I get out of it. I feed off that energy. And, to some extent, yeah, sure, I like music, but mostly I'm about friendship. and good vibes. You know,
Yeah, that's
kind of
how I
that kind of
feel.
Laurel Canyon good vibes. You know, and sure that sometimes you need a bit of coke to extend those vibes out there, but you know.
Well, I saw a guy today. I'm actually going in the studio this week myself, doing a little bit of recording with somebody, and I told him we were doing Aerosmith Pump tonight with Luke. He's a big fan of the pod, and he couldn't wait to hear another Luke episode, and it made me happy to think that that we know Luke and he's such a great guy, and I got excited to see you guys. But enough about that. Luke, though, I do want to know a little bit more. How you doing?
I was just wondering because James had just mentioned about how this podcast is about like relationships and friendships. I was just
100%.
wondering if there's anything that's happened directly as a result of this podcast that's caused any sort of irreparable damage to any of your human friendships or relationships.
No, I don't think so.
Not yet.
Okay.
All good. Everything. It's only brought us all closer together.
All right. Well, hopefully we can turn that around tonight.
Exactly. Listen, I don't want to kind of cast aspersions here or anything, but I think you're drinking Guinness,
Boston, right?
Bleecker style.
It's
It's from Dublin.
It's got a bit of there's some kind of Boston kind of connection.
There's a widget in there. It definitely has like a Boston kind of. Well, Boston is kind of like Mickey Mouse Irish people, so yeah, that makes sense. Kind of the plastic Irish.
Honestly, it's just kind of all that I had in the refrigerator, and I didn't have a chance to make it to the shops,
to the
this
bodega.
Evening. Yeah, and I haven't really been boozing much lately. I've been down with the
sickness, I guess.
I've been down with the COVID-19 virus.
Yeah, how you feeling about that?
It's out.
It's nice of you to
you're
admit
okay
that.
saying that you had it. Yeah.
It's kind of like a Tom Hanks when he did that. Right.
Well,
at
I was
the start.
I was the first in LA of the vaccinated people to get it.
Okay.
So I feel like that's pretty. I mean, now everyone's got it, so it's not
patient
really
zero.
It's not really as taboo for me to mention it now.
So you said that you and a couple other the Good Time Boys got it, and then Shred did some shows, and some of them got it.
Well, I'm not naming any names. I mean,
no.
James won't even say who's recording at the damn warehouse.
Exactly.
Some things we just keep. I mean, he keeps sending me these little clips. I'm like, is that Dive? Is that The Cure? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, I'm sad. I'm sorry to hear that it's going around down there amongst the rock scene. But I guess that's the price you pay for rocking, though, right?
I mean, rocking, sucking, fucking, snorting, shooting.
Exactly.
It's bound to happen.
I've often said that.
As Randy Newman will tell you, there's no shortage of big, nasty redheads running around these streets. And God knows what they've been doing. So I brought this upon myself. I take full responsibility.
I want to talk to you a little bit, though, because you kind of are on the ground down there. And, like, obviously, like, you're in, you've been you're a couple of months ahead in terms of super spreader events with a double vax scenario. Like, what were the symptoms like? How did you feel?
Felt great, man.
Yeah. So you just you were asymptomatic?
Yeah, I think what they don't tell you on the news is it pretty much just fucking rips.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if that's all there is to it, then maybe we should have just skipped this whole last 2 years of worrying about it. You know what I mean?
Do you think the vax has kind of helped? But you guys are all J&J down there. You kind of got the baby vaccines, right?
Well, you like to keep in shape. You're a fit man. You're a young, virile, fit man. It's not going to hit you hard, right? We were looking out
in our trousers.
We were looking out for the vulnerable these past 2 years, right?
So you're saying for the people whose families it's completely ravaged and torn apart, it does not rip.
That exactly.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
I didn't think of that side of things. I'm glad that I sometimes I'm just thinking about myself and I'm not worried about what's really going on out
Well, that's
there
the
in the
kind of
real world.
American way, the kind of libertarian way, It's
Hey,
kind of like
as
the
long as I'm
Steinbeckian
fine.
way.
Well, as long as I'm okay, who cares,
Yeah.
You could always go back up to Palo Alto. You probably get in a spaceship at this point, given what
Yeah.
they're doing up there, and just kind of or go to Vanderbilt Aerodrome or whatever they call it, and kind of land on Pluto within about 15 minutes.
White boys in space. It's
Exactly.
hip, right? It's real hip right now.
Totally. Sounds like it could have been a song on Pump.
Maybe.
Like that kind of energy. I don't think they would have meant it to mean the same thing that it actually is kind of depicting now, but you can imagine definitely like kind of like a feel-good song called like Boys in Space. For
Yeah,
sure.
and Steven Tyler was definitely at the forefront of white rap.
Well, yeah, definitely.
He was probably he was down with hip hop maybe before
The
it
Beastie
became
Boys.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
before Beastie Boys for sure.
Well, basically the same. It was probably the same sessions, wasn't it?
Similar.
Ruben, 86.
Fairburn.
Well, songs like Ragdoll and stuff, like it's not really rap, but he kind of always had like a rap kind of
Mentality.
vocal approach.
Yeah, mentality.
Zoop-dap, dooba-dap, dooba. Like,
Well, I was
in
thinking.
a
I was
Cab
thinking
Calloway.
about the Walk This Way.
Yeah, I know, but you know how you're always talking, Luke, about how Steven Tyler, he kind of does, what were you saying, sort of a Humphrey Bogart?
Okay.
Kind of a...
Hoagie, like a Mae West, almost like a come up and see me sometime.
Well, he does.
Like
He literally, yeah. It's kind of like
Yeah.
like kind of a Mask kind of vibe.
yeah, or like the WB Frog.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you like the plant?
Hello, my baby. Hello.
The plant is peanut.
Yeah.
Guy.
Exactly.
But that's kind of a sort of a Cab Calloway, too.
Right.
Minnie the Moocha, which I've also heard been referred to as the origins of rap.
Okay.
Well, I would say I think Run DMC Walk This Way with Aerosmith is
Sure. Ruben.
It's been determined that is the first rap rock number, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would say that like
Maybe recorded in Vancouver.
Well, it certainly was produced by Rick Rubin. I mean, I'm going to go as far as to say that you're saying what I'm picking up what you're putting down is that Steven Tyler was down with the sickness.
Yeah, he was Woodstock 99 before anyone had even thought of Limp Bizkit.
Exactly. That's he's kind of prototype for that kind of energy.
Yeah, and I think they might even played that. I just watched episode 1 of Woodstock 99, the series, and it was just kind of nauseating, really.
Demented, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I felt
There's a
just,
series?
kind of sick. Yeah, I thought it was just a one-time shot, but I guess it's a full season, and they're all like 2 hours apiece. I was like, this is enough. I don't need. I watched the first thing, and it was horrifying.
Well, I should say thank you actually to you because you were the one that turned me and Johnny on to the making of Pump, the documentary, which genuinely, and I'm paraphrasing Johnny here, and I've said this to several people in real life, not virtually. If you want to watch a good documentary about music, like turn that one on and honestly grab a couple of beers before you watch it because you won't be able to turn it off. It's really it's a really fun ride. That documentary.
the way I'll tell the story is that Luke sent it. We were supposed to do the pod that night, but unfortunately Luke had a positive test, or the next day we were supposed to do it, and so we had to postpone. But I thought to myself, I'll sit down and watch this with a couple of beers, and I can say, all joking aside, it might be the greatest rock documentary I've ever seen. It was so funny. It was so funny, and it was the fact that they're in their 40s and they're trying to like get back to being like, you know, number one. They know they're putting it all on the line for this record. The lighting, the staging for the interviews, I don't know, just the whole thing is just, it's a masterpiece, I thought.
Yeah, the behind the scenes stuff is really high budget. Like them in the studio is kind of your basic kind of VCR camcorder kind of
100%.
footage. But then when they kind of go back to like them like describing their kind of, you know, walking you through their process, they're in front of like a beautiful like white screen, hair and makeup fully done. So obviously they were thinking of it as like a proper released film.
I was particularly impressed by the kind of intricate use of different chairs and set design, particularly in those stages when they're on the sound stage. Kind of a ladder. The drummer chooses a ladder and
kind of leans against it.
Yeah, he kind of leans against it with his eye twitching, saying, listen, the twitch in my eye, that's Steven, you know? And I kind of like that approach. They had kind of like, they obviously were kind of in a you know, like some kind of like, I suppose focus group was like, you know, guys, we're going to do these interviews. Pick your poison. Take an axe off the wall. What are you going to stand on? What are you going to sit on? What do you think represents you the best in terms of kind of like, is it a ladder? I think the ladder's kind of out of the box. A lot of personality compared to like Steven Tyler's approach of like more of a kind of, you know, a kind of, I suppose like a fin de siècle, like comfortable chair, like, you know.
Kind of sitting Indian style with no shoes.
Exactly.
And you had to kind of like make sure you wore your best, like kind of like paisley vest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's more the bassist, I think.
Are you guys talking about the part where he compares making a record to like building a ladder?
Well, no, I was just saying, like, I really enjoy how the drummer chose, like, for his kind of origin story, like, he chose to, like, lean against the ladder.
Oh, yeah. But then there's also, interestingly, the part where Steven Tyler talks about, I thought it was a very, you know, apropos metaphor that making an album is like building a ladder. Because he said,
Jacob's
you know,
ladder.
you got your two boards on the side, and then you got one rung, you know? And you put that rung on, and then you step on it, and then you need another rung, and that's maybe the bass track or something, you know? And then you just keep putting rungs on till you're at the top.
I'm going to crack another one of these bad boys.
We're back.
I was talking about
we just had a little bit of I just want to say to the sort of fans, we just had a couple of technical issues there, and I know that you guys hold us to such a high standard when it comes to our proficiency technically, and you know, but we're mustering on and we're soldiering on, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, you know,
you were talking about ladders.
I'm going to take the blame for the tech stuff, as I have a couple of times lately, but I just want everybody to know that as of tomorrow, there's no turning back for me, and my internet connection will be the best it can be. The best money can buy, really.
Well, the military grade.
Yeah. But
Aerosmith's made like 30 albums, and not one person in that band knows anything about how to push record.
Yeah.
It's only a new development that us as the musicians and artists even need to worry about this kind of crap.
So true.
Yeah.
But don't they also have a record called Just Press Play?
Yeah, I guess they assume that it's that simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of where they had gotten to the point where they had absolutely no interest in even being involved in the writing or the recording process.
Exactly.
Whatsoever. Jaded.
I like that one. That's when Fairbairn left. No, Fairbairn left on Jaded, right? He was like, I won't work with this band because he said it sounded too digital. Oh, no, it wasn't him. It was the A&R guy. Fairbairn was dead. What's the A&R guy called? Alex. He sounds like he's got the same name as the singer in Franz Ferdinand. Like it's like Alex Kapranos. It's like something like that, Kaplankis or something.
The bearded fellow.
Yeah, the guy who's kind of doing the kind of like he's doing he's
from the
from
dude looks
Geffen.
like a lady.
Yeah, he's doing
video.
He's works for Geffen, and he's the A&R guy in the documentary, and he said he quit working with Aerosmith when they did Jaded because he said it sounded too digital.
Yeah, and when he heard Janie's Got a Gun, the demo for the first time, he said, "This is Steven's masterpiece."
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the same guy. What's his name, Luke?
I don't know. I know he's in the
I'll tell you right now.
Dude Looks Like a Lady video.
And he that scene in the making of Pump when he's just checking out all the tracks is just out of control. That he's like, well, you're gonna need to get to that chorus a lot sooner.
Yeah,
I think he knows he knows what he's talking about. I'll give him.
He does.
It's Alex.
And the best part is
Alex
Joe
Kaplanis, I think his name is, or something.
A lot of A&R types, they don't really have anything to actually even say, but he seems like he knows what he wants. That guy.
They respect
And Joe
him.
Joe Perry's. I love the way he explains it. He says, "You know what?" He's like, "I hate it. I fucking hate it. These A&R guys. They come." He's like, "But you know what? I know I have to do it because if I was an artist, if I was a folk singer, I'd be playing the coffee shops at Cambridge.
100%.
But I'm not. I'm in an arena rock band, and I know that, and so I know what I have to do. What these guys say, you know,
Totally.
Isn't Joe he's just a sweetheart, isn't he?
He honestly, I had nothing bad to say about him the whole documentary.
He's incredible.
He's just so great.
Yeah.
His guitar
Whereas
playing
Steven
makes
Styler-
his guitar playing. Let's stick on Joe for a second. His guitar playing makes no sense either. How good it is.
I have no idea what he's even listening to as he's overdubbing those solos.
No,
I have no idea what song he's.
I feel like he's in a
hearing.
fugue state, and he's just kind of like, I don't know. He's kind of got like the Kurt Hammett like kind of vibe where he's just this kind of like peaceful energy that I didn't really know he had. And they talk about that a little bit. Like he, like many of us, like many of the best did, picked up the guitar because we couldn't get laid, and needed to find like a way to kind of access anything. That's what that kind of Steven says about Joe.
That's what Steven respects about him.
Yeah.
That that his guitar playing comes from a sexual desire.
Frustration,
Yeah, frustration point of view. That's why he likes it versus the other guitarists kind of...
Brad.
Technical Brad.
Brad Whitford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But, a lot of people say... people say, I like that when the drummer's talking about that, a lot of people, they overlook Brad. They say that Joe... everybody knows Joe for every single song, but they don't know that there are riffs that are Brad's, brainchild. Like for instance, "Monkey on My Back."
They make
Voodoo Medicine Man.
Voodoo
Medicine Man is like that was all Brad.
They make that really clear in the documentary with that phenomenal clip of them like jamming in the studio. And it's just like Joe and Brad almost know how ridiculous it is, what they're doing, like the way they're shredding together. And you get to see that kind of, we've talked about it before on the podcast with you, Luke, twin guitar attack. Like,
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, really developed there. And it's something that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know you could do. I didn't even know you were allowed to do that.
The interplay between Joe and Brad in that scene is just so heartwarming. They don't want to stop.
They don't want to stop.
The song has ended about 3-4 minutes previous, but they just like, let's just keep this going. Buddies.
The bassist is playing a role too. I'll tell you what, though, the drums just they suck, man. If you listen to them in that jam, it's incredible. Like, and that's the thing about it, like about that kind of classic rock, kind of smooth but hard energy is like, all that music could live forever except for the like gated reverb on the snare, which really dates it.
Well, it's a distinctly Vancouver sounding snare.
It specifically it's something to do with the humidity, I think.
Can we actually talk a little bit about that? Because Luke, I know you were very curious about what was the first song or album or recording that had that Vancouver drum sound, right?
It's got to be Bryan Adams, right?
I don't think so. I think it's got to be earlier than that, surely.
You had a few theories of what it was, though. No,
I did some research, but a lot of those early Canadian albums were recorded in places like New York and Los Angeles. Like, I don't know when they first got that Vancouver sound dialed in.
I'm gonna say, my guess, and it is just a guess, would be it probably appears in Prism stuff, which is real CanCon. And I would say the first rock band to do it would be like Loverboy.
I was going to say Loverboy, working for the Weeknd.
Yeah, exactly.
Was probably the first hit that had that.
That was before Bryan Adams?
Yeah, and I'm going to say also the first
85.
Time, yeah, and then the first...
Bryan Adams is like 82, 83.
I don't think... I'm going to say that it's going to be... I'm going to say Loverboy, and then the first like major one would be Slippery When Wet.
That's the one that got all the big bands to want to start coming up to Little Mountain.
That's what I want to know. Is that the first one of all the sleazy American bands to be recorded in Vancouver?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
According to Bruce Fairbairn's IMDb page, then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Rip to a real one, too, with him, unfortunately. He died so young he didn't get to see his legacy. You know what? He'd have loved this podcast. I was
watching that. I was telling Luke I was watching that documentary and thinking, sort of, because like thinking about, producing a record for a band. And he's kind of wearing white sneakers and a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, he's got the Iovine. He's the Iovine world.
Sort of the way I dress a little bit too.
Yeah,
like
100%.
And I was kind of like, what a world to go into the viper's nest with a band like Aerosmith. And I was trying to just imagine what that would be like. And I was watching the documentary, and I really thought he was doing an amazing job at his job,
Yeah, I mean, he's done some, I don't have his credits right here in front of me, but he did some of the greatest records of the late 80s and early 90s to probably maybe sold the most records as a producer of anyone during that time.
I feel like Mutt Lange's probably give him a run for his money, but...
Mutt Lange's good.
But, he's kind of
But I don't really know what Mutt Lange did other than Def Leppard and early AC/DC. What else was he doing?
Yeah, I guess he's more kind of early 80s. And then he did Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You, like the whole soundtrack actually. To Robin
that's
Hood.
good.
And then he did Shania Twain, Come On Over. But yeah, like late 80s, true. He was
That's all Canadian stuff as well.
But he was more like Foreigner 4, Cars, Heartbreak City. He did that. So he wrote Drive, which is good.
Mutt Lange?
Yeah. So he's got
some... Well, what I was saying is that Bruce Fairbairn, he's kind of a dorky guy, and he's meant to be taken seriously in this room of sex-crazed drug fiends.
Well, they're NA, too, at that point, so they're really on edge.
Well, at that point, but, it's kind of... I just think, like, it's a difficult task for... he's smaller than them, and I don't know, I was... like physically, and he's kind of he doesn't ooze that kind of like rock and roll coolness in any way whatsoever.
To be frank, none of them do, though, really.
No,
but in their minds they do. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
So that's what I don't understand is all these bands that the bands that eventually ended up, recording in Vancouver and following in the footsteps of Bon Jovi, like the Motley Crues and all these bands that I loved when I was a little kid, like Guns N' Roses. To them, if you ask them who the coolest band is of all time, they all say Aerosmith. And I never quite understood what exactly, like you guys just said, these are like the dorkiest guys in the world, but according to the coolest guys in the world, Aerosmith is the best.
So according to like coolest guys in the world for you being like who?
Rat,
Okay.
Slash,
Yeah.
Nikki Sixx.
Nikki
They
Sixx,
all idolize.
I'm on the fence about him being the cool. Slash is really cool.
They all
Slash is
idolize Aerosmith. That's like the template for who they were. Their
I
bands.
can see why though. Like the main reason would be for me that they idolize Aerosmith is because Aerosmith, like, it's kind of like it's great when you're straight. Like all these guys had to go straight in their 40s, and Aerosmith like got famous finally in their 40s with their 14th album by just getting other people into write it and not doing coke anymore. So it's like it is interesting because those interviews that you're thinking about, it's about longevity to some extent. You know,
Look,
these
I
guys
gotta
aren't going to be into like the burnout and fade away guys because they're trying to like Slash is still playing.
But
you know?
Slash wasn't idolizing Dude Looks Like a Lady. He was idolizing Mark I of Aerosmith,
Right.
which I think we're focusing more on the like Mark II.
Well, I'm not
sober
even
Aerosmith.
convinced that Aerosmith are a band. straight up.
Can I just break this down right now for a second? Something that needs to be addressed is that we sort of had you on tonight, Luke.
You got your
we
like your microwave or something beeping.
What?
I hear it too, man. But I can deal with it. I wasn't gonna say anything because I'm a professional.
It's not on my end.
I
That's
thought
not on
maybe
my
it was
end.
James's rice cooker.
That's not on my end. There's no beeping in my room.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your
I'm
thought.
in
You were saying something
I'm
good.
in a monastery here.
I was saying that there is a
There it
theory
is
that
again.
It's definitely on your end, dude. Frequent.
All right.
You know what you need? You need one of those cages around your apartment, a Faraday cage.
Well, now I really want to hear what John was going to say.
Me too.
a Faraday cage.
You need a Faraday
Alright,
cage.
motherfuckers.
Fairburn would request one.
I have a friend. She does like voiceover work, and she just bought herself a nice booth. She had a
Yeah.
booth installed.
You can do that these days.
You can buy just the damn booth. They'll bring it in and put it in your living room.
It's worth it.
Okay.
What I was trying to say is that we're struggling to understand about what kind of a band Aerosmith is in the canon, because it seems now when you look up any kind of ranking of great American bands,
So true.
they're top 5, top 10 everywhere. But in my mind, they're kind of a weird group that seems like a record company created Led Zeppelin or something. And I don't really know where they fit in. And I thought maybe you'd be able to explain that, Luke, a bit.
Well, you got to think about the timing when Aerosmith was first coming to prominence.
Yeah.
That Zeppelin, Stones, Beatles thing was kind of passe at that point,
Big time.
and there was a major hole in the white American blues market, and there was really only a few groups. There was like Ted Nugent, there was Aerosmith.
Yeah.
I mean, who else really? There wasn't
There was
a lot.
little
That's
bit
like
of,
a
yeah.
It's
Before
kind of
Van Halen,
second
it's
wave.
basically waiting for Van Halen to show up.
Steve Miller, maybe? A little
yeah.
bit?
It's like a post Zap, pre Halen
Yeah.
hole that
world.
needed to be filled. And
Yeah.
if you look back at all those like California Jam 1976, Van Halen was like, I mean, Aerosmith
Yeah.
was the headlining. They were the biggest band in the world.
Interesting.
So that
And at that time, they were writing their own songs, right? In the 70s.
yeah, like the
Permanent Vacation kind of style era.
Well, I'm thinking more
No.
Toys in the Attic rocks.
Yeah, I meant Toys in the Attic.
Rocks to me is that's the only one I have on my record shelf, and I think it's a great album.
What about Draw the Line or like Night in the Ruts? There are some more.
all great.
Yeah.
Kind of
What's
like
the deal with Sweet Emotion? Can I just ask? Because in my opinion, whenever I listen to it, I think, oh, they must have got a different producer in for this because it sounds like too good. For like, Walk This Way, Dream On, all the hits, Back on the Saddle. I get it. But Sweet Emotion feels like it's like more thoughtful or something.
I think that's one of those ones like you guys are talking about Mick Jagger with Exile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they re-recorded a lot of that stuff in like the 90s.
Yeah.
And so the version that we're hearing now might not even be the right version.
Really?
Well, I can tell you
Is
right
that
now.
right? Wow.
I can tell you right now that the producer on that was a guy called Jack Douglas. And he is most notably known for another few bands that you might have heard of, Cheap Trick, Patti Smith, and the New York Dolls. So he would have been involved in that kind of, like we're saying, like that pre-Van Halen kind of dearth, you know?
Yeah. Cheap Trick
about
is
like
another big one.
I'm thinking about the backwards crash cymbal on Sweet Emotion, you know? Like that kind of production move. To me, is not very Aerosmith.
No, it isn't. But
on that song.
I'll tell you. I just want to tell you because this is news to me. Jack Douglas. I'm on his website called Wikipedia here. It says Jack Douglas, who produced Sweet Emotion, was born in the Bronx. So you know, kind of dealing with almost a Jersey kind of Italian energy, even though he has an English name. He started out working on Robert F. Kennedy's senatorial campaign as a songwriter. I don't know what that means, but listen to this. One of the first things he did was work on the Who's Lifehouse project, which we've discussed quite a lot on this podcast. And then he did New York Dolls' first album, and then he did all of the Aerosmith records through the 70s. So they were like, obviously, kind of like that was their vibe. Like
I'm convinced he sounds legit.
They took like guys on, and then were like, they knew they needed a producer their whole career, which I didn't realize.
And I love all their albums. So I mean, even Just Push Play, I was listening to the other day.
Yeah,
there's actually a good making of Just Push Play on the YouTube.
Yeah, is there a question mark at the end of the title?
I'm not sure, but it's some
it sounds like they're hoping.
Robot.
Well, I'm just thinking they're hoping that it's that simple because they never got close to the control room themselves. So it's like just press play is more them just being like, is that going to work? Will we be able to record if we do this?
Kind of just basically admitting like we got nothing left.
Yeah,
this is like we milked it as far as we could. We kind of peaked at, Armageddon soundtrack.
Yeah,
was
it was
as far as we could.
Pretty good.
You couldn't really go any further than that.
That's
can't go anywhere from there
of their career.
What about Pink? The song.
I think Don't Want to Miss a Thing that's the highest they ever got as a band.
Yeah,
personally, Pink and Don't Want to Miss a Thing probably came out around the same time, and that was kind of like their last gasp.
Hurrah!
I mean, unless you, Jaded, I guess, would be their last.
Well, he fell off stage. That would have been kind of maybe the end of it. He famously fell off stage when he was rapping. Well, I wanted to say the whole sobriety thing is just the whole sobriety thing is just that's just part of the promo thing. Like Steven Tyler is still in and out of rehab at age 68. It's not like they got. If you watch that Pump documentary, you notice whenever he's in the vocal booth, his eyes are just black, and he's just like he's obviously run to the bathroom in between takes. Well, he looks like a coked up baboon. Frankly,
Luke, are you familiar, Luke, with the story of how "Love in an Elevator" was written, or the origin of that song, by chance?
I'm assuming it was based on personal, actual human experience.
Do you know anything about how that went down, or?
I can only guess that there was an elevator involved and maybe some love making.
Yeah, and then, but what wasn't there a sort of a moment in that documentary when Steven Tyler was saying that he was in the elevator?
Yeah,
actually, he's so full.
I remember.
Of quotes.
Yeah, I remember he was saying that he was in a hot tub with two women, and the conversation got quite heady. He said they were two very intellectual women.
Nice.
And they were talking about whether tampons would be free if men menstruated.
Interesting.
And it was a very serious conversation. And then in Steven Tyler's words, he said, then eventually I realized that I needed to take the party up to my bedroom.
Nice. That's exactly. It's interesting because that's exactly how I would feel if I was in that conversation too. That's what I would get out of that conversation, that they both want to have sex with me.
Yeah. So he said they got in the elevator, and he said that they hit the floor he was going to, and then he dropped his key on the floor of the elevator.
Yeah.
And so
Classic
he had to
move.
get down.
Yeah,
and then he had to get down there.
Been there.
And while he was down there, I guess he thought that he'd do something.
He'd kind of live it up while he's going down.
While he's going down, exactly. And then in his words, he said, they arrived at the lobby, the doors open, and she was a kneeling and squealing, and I was a wheeling and dealing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, man.
And the best thing about that story is none of it ever happened.
No, exactly.
I don't know.
Maybe I guess
probably did.
Probably did with him. Actually.
I feel like Steven Tyler is really good at psychological manipulation.
Well, he's married to his daughter, isn't he?
Well, he adopted a gal because that was the only way he could legally marry her.
Nice.
I don't know what state that was in, but I guess. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
You mean like American state, or like what state he was in?
What state emotionally he was in? I mean, even his later albums, we're talking about Pump. Half of the songs on Pump are talking about like, I hope the sheriff doesn't catch me for what I did, to his daughter. Kind of. Yeah, exactly. Those are kind of the themes.
Yeah.
Running from the police.
Yeah, it's kind of running from the police. But, like he's living in a world that's, you think about like Guns N' Roses, because Guns N' Roses and Slash, like kind of, to me, like created that world. I guess the New York Dolls and Aerosmith did too. But like, you got these, particularly with Guns N' Roses, you have a lot of like really like jacked up, like, we're way post Altamount. So you got like the Hells Angels, it's gone full circle. Like they're going to the shows. And they're watching all of these guys dressed up as girls on stage, rocking like as hard as anyone's rocked before. And they're feeling it, they're enjoying it, but they also know at the same time, like, if I left my daughter for a second with one of these motherfuckers dressed up as a girl, she'd be ruined. And that's kind of like Aerosmith's kind of in that kind of like they really started like wheeling and dealing in that lore. In that world where it's like, look, I might look like a bitch, but like, don't even fucking consider leaving me with even my own daughter, because I'll go there.
Can I ask you guys?
It's libidinal.
You better keep your daughter inside or she's going to get a dose of my pride.
Bring your daughter to the slaughter, that kind of thing.
Well, that's Iron Maiden, but
what did you guys think of the fact when the drummer says, some people love sex and some don't. And he says, I don't.
I had a massive amount of respect
He says, I know Steven's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's what our band is kind of based on. But, what's the take on that? He just kind of abstained all those years, huh?
Well, I'll tell you.
Very asexual rhythms.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, the rhythms, I think he was making a sacrifice for the team. But I'll tell you, as someone who's never had sex, that I respected that massively.
Takes a lot of guts to admit that you're not horny.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
You're more focused. Listen, every drummer I've played with, I wish they focused more on rhythm and tempo and less on everything else.
Less on fucking.
Well, just less on, like, I don't know, like I guess less on paradiddles. Less on kind of, like, I don't know, Fool in the Rain. It seems to be they're all focused on Fool in the Rain, and I'm thinking,
they really enjoy that,
play more like the guy from Aerosmith. In fact, you know what, can I shock you? I'm going to take back what I said about our boy in Aerosmith with the twitchy eye not playing well.
Joey Kramer.
Thank you. I guess like the bassist and the other guitarist left for a bit when the coat got really heavy, when the scene got really heavy. It was actually Joe Perry that left. I'm talking about
really?
like early
Interesting.
80s.
I think the only one that left was Joe Perry, and they did an album with like a Joe Perry lookalike. And
Makes sense. Probably not that hard to find in New Jersey if you
Jimmy
go-
Crespo was his name.
They probably just hit the local gyms
Exactly.
and they checked out who was working the bench press. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And funny enough, the big single off that album, Jailbait.
Nice.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Can I just say, guys, that regarding the song "Monkey on My Back" off the Pump album, I just wanted to say that I particularly enjoyed the scene where they're talking about what songs they might have to cut
Yeah.
from the album.
Yeah.
And "Monkey on My Back," you know, truth be told, was on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And Steven Tyler said, you know, Bruce Fairbairn said, you know, it's taking too long to record it. And Steven Tyler said, well, you know, "I Am the Walrus" by the Beatles
Nice.
took, you know, famously took months to record.
Yeah.
And how are we to know "Monkey on My Back" is not going to be the
So
"I Am
true.
the Walrus" of this album? So,
Of our generation. Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
so true.
of this generation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
so
I
true.
like that part a lot.
Yeah, well, I think he's probably right.
And then, as Luke said, probably the worst song on the album. Or
Yeah.
It's either that or Don't Get Mad, Get Even.
Nice.
That one's pretty bad too.
Kind of a bitch move, frankly.
Actually, the Voodoo Medicine Man's probably the worst.
I was going to ask you, actually, Luke.
There's a few really bad songs on that album.
There's not that many good ones. I mean, there's a couple of good ones, actually, really good ones. But I was going to ask you earlier when we were talking about, like, Steven Tyler, like, inventing rap music.
I didn't say that.
No, I was just going to say, like...
He might
know.
have invented rap metal
well, like, yeah, like, he's down with the sickness, exactly.
for sure.
But, yeah, but I was thinking, like, you know, he's from Boston, so you would, like, traditionally, in terms of his rap style, like, think he's East Coast, but, like, I was wondering if you think, because I do, he has kind of like a Cali style of, like, delivery when it comes to his rap.
Yeah, kind of like a young MC kind of flow.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
lazy, kind
Old
of Cali
school.
style, West Coast.
Yeah, a little bit like Humpty Dance.
Yeah, kind of West Coast connection kind of thing.
That's true.
no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say West Side Connection,
Thank you, yeah.
but I would say Young MC, Humpty
Okay.
Dance, Digital Underground,
Okay.
that kind of old school flow.
So not conscious, then? Do you think he's
Again,
conscious?
Definitely not.
He's
Let me
not
tell you guys
Blackalicious.
something.
He's not
Let me
conscious.
let me
No,
tell you guys
it's
something.
It's party.
I had
party
a-
rap.
Right,
When I
party
worked
rap,
at Zulu, there was a poster we had that was the history of rap that
Okay.
someone had created.
Presumably,
that-
he was on the front, like, top of it.
No, it was like a Venn diagram. And
It wasn't a
was-
family tree?
No, well, maybe it was more like a family tree. I don't know. But it started with Cab Calloway,
Okay. Interesting.
Minnie the Moocher. And I think that what Luke is saying about the whole,
Yeah.
you know, hello, my baby, hello, my honey,
Yeah.
hello, my right, that's what Steven
Skiffle.
Tyler's doing. The more Cab Calloway thing that could be interpreted as rapping. And you know, it's like Blondie. Blondie was also on the poster, you know, as like
Yeah, but that's just a hate crime. That's different because it's like, by that point, it's like she's just in New York, you know, running a racket, doing kind of like
well, the
what's hip.
poster had absolutely everybody, so who
Yeah.
may have played a role. But yeah, I agree. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
that she was influential at the time. Blondie was making rap. I think Grandmaster Flash and those people were probably around too. So,
But I agree, like Aerosmith, like Steven Tyler's more kind of like on a Hello Dolly kind of
yeah,
rap
I don't
scene.
think it's
The
it's-
WB.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think he's not rapping at all. He doesn't know what rap is. He doesn't care.
Right.
He's doing like a Cab Calloway,
Yeah.
hello, my baby,
Yeah.
kind of spoken word,
Yeah.
kind of stepping out with my baby. Nothing wrong because I do right. Nothing
He
to
just
li-
wanted to prove to these black guys that Oh, I've already been doing this stuff.
And man, did he prove it.
When he gets
know?
in, it was like it just validates what I was already doing when Run DMC covered my song Walk
You
This
know,
Way.
you think
Yeah.
you guys might like Porgy and Bess or the Cincinnati Kid. You guys should hear Pump. It's a similar kind of feel, frankly. Ragdoll, you know?
Oh, which album has Ragdoll, Luke?
It's the one before Pump.
That's a Permanent Vacation. That was their first. That was their first big apparently like middle-aged sobriety comeback album.
It's pretty good, yeah.
That one it reminds me a lot of Hot Town, Summer in the City. Also.
Definitely it's the
same kind of rap, same
the
kind of feel.
It's kind of that lineage.
But also like I feel like maybe like that whole lineage ends in The Mask, the movie. Like that's where it finally hits kind of critical mass. Critical mass.
That and like Mighty Boss Tones.
Well, it's Clown for sure. Like, but like maybe like Mighty Boss Tones, Ska, kind of two-tone.
Smash Mouth, and
Maybe,
shit like that. It's
They're
the
not
same-
Zoot Suit.
No, it's not a Zoot Suit
like
Riot.
rap. They're like rap, the same kind of Steven Tyler rap though. Smash Mouth.
It all
When
kind of
they're like-
culminated in Woodstock '99.
Yeah, it did. That's
Yeah,
where it
you-
ended. That's the nadir of it. Who sings
Somebody
Summer in
once
the City? Is it
told
Loving
me the
Spoonful?
world is gonna roll me.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
it's funny because it doesn't really sound like any other Love and Spoonful track.
It is. I think that's who it is, right?
Yeah, it is. But
Yeah, it is.
it's a little bit more rocking than
It's
their
pretty
other
rocking, honestly.
stuff. It's a
You know,
great
honestly, if you'd have
song.
told me it was Ace Frehley, I'd have been like, yeah, for sure.
You mean
Yeah.
Summer in the City?
Yeah.
It's a lot
Yeah, I know.
heavier than some of their other stuff.
I can't think
Do
of
you
anything
believe
heavier.
in magic? Yeah.
I mean, it still has a bit of that kind of hair soundtrack energy, but
They're a good group.
I
like
guess
them.
so.
Yeah.
You know Clay of Mapache, Luke, told me that Do You Believe in Magic is his all-time favorite song.
I believe
I
that
thought-
actually with him.
I thought that was an interesting pick.
he has a John Sebastian sort of vibe.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've never
And
met
if,
him, but I'm
if
sure
anything
agree.
bad ever comes up or is discussed, Clay will immediately leave the room and pretend that he did not hear that.
I respect that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you
yeah, nice.
if you tell him anything remotely kind of like real, it'll he won't acknowledge it.
And you think that's a Sebastian kind of energy?
I think it's a Woodstock.
Yeah, it's a pre-Altamount energy for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's like kind of like Woodstock, the documentary, as opposed to Woodstock, the horrible
reality.
things that actually happen.
Yeah, it's kind of like keeping the dream alive. It's boomer
sweep
bait.
it under the rug.
Sweep it under the rug. Yeah, exactly. That black guy didn't die
Wonderful
at
man
Altamount.
though, Clay. You know, I had him here in my apartment one time, and Mapache was playing in Vancouver.
Put up some Tibetan prayer flags.
No,
and
and
stuff,
we were sitting at about 1 a.m. listening to records, and then he looked over at me and he said, "Hey Johnny, have you got like some clippers, like some hair clippers here?"
Nice.
I said, "Like, what do you mean?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, he had this long hair, you know, surfer. He's a surfer." And he said, "I just want to shave all this shit off, you know."
Yeah, Canada will do that to you.
And I
Very
said,
Kravitzy move.
And I said, "Yeah, man, I got it." And
Big
we took him
Kravitzy.
in the bathroom, Alex and Sam Blasucci and I, and we took turns shaving this beautiful surfer hair off him. And he requested that "Fortunate Son" by Creedence Clearwater Revival be played on repeat while we did it.
Underrated
that was-
song for that kind of move.
Underrated band.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Fortunate Son. No one's ever really thought about that song before.
Credence is so good that you don't even really think about Credence.
No, it's just happening. It's a soundtrack to your life.
It's just it's beyond even mention.
I was speaking to my granddad today. He turned 94 years old, and I was talking to him, and I was talking to him about like when he was at war in. he went to like the partition of India and Pakistan, like when he was 18. And, you know, we were talking about, I was like, like you're 94, the numbers are crazy, you know, like literally the numbers are crazy. Like I was like, you know, like he was like, you're a young man. I was like, I'm 37. And he was like, yeah, well, you're young. And I was laughing. I was like, what were you doing when you were 37? And it was like I say, the numbers stack up. It was 1966 when he was 37. You know, it's crazy. And he was like talking about, you know, by that age, he'd already been at war. I was like, well, I guess like England won the World Cup in 66, plus like the Beatles and stuff. But he was like in his late 30s. Like, he didn't give a fuck about the Beatles.
The Beatles were just some dumb punk kids.
So, like, what music did he have when he was, like, you know, because, like, Creedence are, like, the Vietnam War band. Like, I guess, like, what did he have? Like, maybe,
that W.B. Frog stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he would be, like, into Steven Tyler.
It was like Rogers. Yeah, it was like Rogers and Hammerstein.
Yeah,
Duke Ellington, Billie
soundtracks.
I doubt that those guys had crossed over. Clapton brought those guys across. You know,
how many confirmed kills does your grandfather have?
I don't think he was doing that, but when I've talked about it with him, like, because obviously, like he's really, you know, obviously with people of that age, you know, they're really interested to talk to about this stuff. I've talked to him about that because he was there for 2 years, and it was you know, he had to go. What's it called? You know, conscription.
Draft.
Yeah, draft. It was a draft thing, and he actually got drafted the day of the war ended, World War II ended. So he went, which is incredible. So he missed D-Day by like, you know, a year, and I'm sure there was other places he could have been stationed. So he went out to India, and he was like, you know, it wasn't really like. We weren't doing the violence. Like, it was violence on violence, because it was like, the like kind of the abstract or the more extreme violence was, of course, being done by the colonists by like partitioning countries and all this kind of insane stuff that British people did, or like, you know, like the colonies that the British Empire did. But like, he was kind of like just watching it, basically, and that it was like people just like, you know, really didn't like each other. Were doing to each other, and they were kind of more just like sitting watching millions of people like being switching where they lived and stuff. I know very little about that historically, but that's what he said. So he was like, oh, I remember it really well. But, you know, like most people of that generation, it's like they don't talk about it, right? They don't really, like, I don't know if you understand. It's not like, you know, it's not like recording at Little Mountain where you can just, it's, you know, you can talk about like those EQs all day. These guys were at war on a daily basis.
No, I saw some guys talking about like, oh, it must have been really tough. Hey, Grandpa, it must have been really tough for the guys, like having to live with yourself after you like committed all these horrible atrocities. And he's like, no, we didn't care.
No, we were kids. Rock on.
We were only upset about the guys that we lost.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that kind of energy.
And then I was like, "We're living on the edge."
Exactly. And that's what that song's probably about. I love it in the Pump documentary, which everyone listening should watch. When Steven Tyler talks about Janie's got a gun, and he sort of says like, you know, I knew. With my masterpiece that he wrote on a slap bass preset on a Korg M1.
He had just gotten that new keyboard. He was really excited.
He was really fired up about it. So
kind of a Seinfeld-y kind of sound.
Well, yeah, it probably is the same sound on the Seinfeld soundtrack. Frankly.
It was around the same time, right? What came out first, Seinfeld or Pump?
And he sort of does that. He's also a drummer at heart.
He did some he did some beatboxing as well.
Well, I mean, he's kind of all the elements of hip hop. I guess, like, I don't know if he's DJ'd ever or done graffiti, but I imagine he's probably done graffiti a couple of times. So, like, he's kind of got all the elements. That's why I was thinking he has more of a Cali style, because he's kind of done all the elements of hip hop in his life. He's beatboxed.
Well, he's probably spent more time in LA than he ever did in
Boston.
Probably spent more time in LA than he ever did in his hometown at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So
all the great guys are out in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's kind of got it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and Vancouver doesn't really have a rich hip hop, pedigree, but you know, it's still West Coast.
I don't know any. I don't know a lot of Vancouver rap groups.
Yeah, there's not much going on up here. I don't think.
I don't know that I've ever heard of one. What about who is the guy Chaos? He wasn't from here though, was he?
No, he's from Toronto.
Speaking
he
of the
was here-
Brian Adams console, I
He
got
was here
called
all
in
the
one
time.
night.
Sorry,
I got
what's
called
that?
in
Yeah.
one night to a Chaos session.
I bet you
He-
did. Yeah, he was
he
kind of
had-
adjacent with Ryan Dahl. He was kind of adjacent to your scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had booked out the warehouse
Nice.
for a week to work on his new record, and he called up me and a couple of my boys, and he said, "Just come on down. We got the pump console.
Yeah,
We got everything set up. We'll just jam, and I'll just kind of adjust, push, play kind of thing. Like we'll
100%.
worry about it later.
Yeah.
Cut it together, and
splice it all up.
I'll rap over it. You know."
Yeah.
And we spent most of the time just doing
Coke.
copious amounts of drugs and alcohol, and by
Yeah.
the time we started to actually play the music, it's probably about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and it was just complete unlistenable garbage.
It's kind of
And-
a hell
And
freezes
it
over
was-
energy.
Yeah, it was on somebody else's tab, obviously.
more the long
Long run, yeah, kind of a
Long
disco
run.
strangler.
Except that stuff ended up getting used eventually. This
Yeah.
I don't think this ever got released.
I mean, I could speak to him, try and see if he has the tapes. Release the tapes is what I'd say.
It was definitely the height of like my kind of like Vancouver velvet rope, just
Yeah,
living in a world of yes,
like,
as Michael J. Fox would call
what
it.
really, and he's from here, of course. So really, when
Yeah.
you realized you needed to go back home,
I was like, I've gone full Armageddon soundtrack here. I don't
Yeah.
think I can take this any further.
and once you get as far as that, there's nowhere else to go.
But just push
Luke,
play.
Luke, you remember how I almost wound up as the bass player in Hot Hot Heat?
You must have been at a really low point.
I don't think you've got the pick dexterity to even do that, or the new wave chops. Frankly,
Yeah, I couldn't really hack it for sure.
you're a bit too bluesy
But-
for that gig.
I think it's because you were playing kind of a straight ahead blues, and we were doing more of kind of like a herky jerky kind of
A
angular
television kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
You're a
sure.
little
Kind
bit
of
But
too
I ha-
CBGBs for your kind of Greenwich Village.
But
if
I
you
had a
get what I
good
mean.
time jamming with you guys.
I mean,
I
I
remember-
wanted it to be you just so we could spend some quality time together on
love
tour.
that.
But at
I
that
love
point, our
that.
star had already kind of faded to the point where we weren't traveling in style as much as we had once been.
I don't think
You know, the highlight-
Johnny's
the
not quite
highlight-
legit enough to kind of get that gig.
Well,
Yeah, it wasn't really like totally in tune.
yeah, I wasn't
And that's
really
what we
into
look for.
tuning at that. No, I wasn't at that time. I did not own a tuner.
It's pre-tuned.
Like early Shiloh's, in my time with Hot Hot Heat, I did not own a tuner. I wasn't into tuning at all.
Yeah,
But I
I'd
would
say
tell
there
you,
was
Luke,
now his
in our
time
want
with
ad.
Hot Heat.
In the want ad in the back of the Georgia Straight, that was the first thing that it said, requirements.
Tuning. TU2 probably. at
in
that
tune,
point.
and then afterwards it said like what kind of shoes and hat and vest and stuff.
Yeah, well, I had the you liked a lot of my button-up shirts.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff.
had-
You
So,
weren't really
yeah.
a hat band, frankly.
Yeah. No, I didn't have hats, but Luke, he felt
I
my
had
shirts
hats.
were. Luke felt my shirts were appropriate.
That's
You still have
important.
some of the better shirts of anyone.
Yeah.
I
It's
know.
actually true then.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, Luke, I could tell you that my favorite memory of that entire time was a night that it turned into a bit of a party night at the studio, and I remember.
Oh
And
yeah,
I remember, and and I remember that we went. Everybody said, "Let's go in and jam," and we went in there, and somebody started playing "Brown Eyed Girl" by Van Morrison.
I've heard
And
of it.
It's probably this is not because I don't have that many highlights like this, but it was one of the highlights of my sort of bass playing career is that somebody else was playing bass.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't right, because they didn't know that kind of skiffle Van Morrison.
Well, they were
60s
probably
stuff.
playing like an F sharp to a C or something crazy.
They just
new
were
wave
playing
like that.
straight notes, straight chords, you know.
Yeah, eighth
and
notes,
and
yeah.
I never forgot Luke, who I love, my buddy Luke. I love him so much.
Yeah.
He said, "Fucking give Johnny the bass.
Right.
He knows how to fucking play it." You know, I never forgot it.
it's
I
kind of a
never
bluesy
forgot it. And I
tune.
loved it. I never forgot
You and I
it.
are probably the only two blues guys there.
Yeah, I never forgot it. And somebody counted it off, and I went boom, 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 doom, doo, 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 and I just nailed it. And we did a wonderful cover of it, and it was really good.
I can hear Steve
And- and
singing it right now.
Steve
frankly.
was singing it. Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
it sounded
But it was
great.
a great memory. I had a great. You always love when you can cuck, as you say, James, cuck another guy in the room.
Sometimes you
and-
gotta cook it,
No.
and I mean, especially when I'm a new wave guy, so like cook me, honestly, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't remember James being around at a lot of those late night
No, I wasn't there.
nose candy parties. What
No,
was
I was
he?
never involved in that community. Wasn't
Really?
like
I
it,
thought-
no.
I
I
thought
was a-
you.
Well, that was later. He joined up because Steve did that Shiloh's thing, and
I feel like
then
I approached James once to audition for that
That
same bass role.
definitely happened. That was
he would have been better for me.
That was
he
at
would have
the-
been
I don't
a
think
he
lot
showed
better
up.
than me.
I think he blew off the audition though.
I'll tell you what was happening to me personally at that point in my life.
You,
I remember
still,
this.
you still were going for that solo thing.
No, I wasn't. What was happening to me at that point in my life, and I remember this specifically happening, and it was like, and obviously, like, as you can imagine, like, I was entirely starstruck because I was a massive fan. The problem was with me at that point in my life is that, like, I was, like, barely, if anything, legally in the country. I was, like, under the table a lot of the time. I was kind of a dreamer, you know, I was one of Obama's dreamers. So, like, any reality of that kind of stuff would have been completely impossible, and I certainly wouldn't have been old enough or mature enough to or like, because I didn't know any of you guys, like, even think that you would care if I was like, I would love, like, more than anything to do this, but the reality is, like, I have to work every day under the table to even stay in this country right now. So that was really what was happening there. That's my sob story, because I would have jumped at the chance, but I couldn't leave the country or anything, so, you know, I don't want to waste your time.
Well, we ended up with the great Parker Bosley, and he's a great musician, and it was a lot of fun. And I think
Bosley
he's
rocks.
Good. No, he's a amazing bass player.
Very hot
but
heat,
the
ready
story
too.
I got a
He's
story.
like he's more of a headband guy than a hat.
Yeah, and I saw him this weekend. Actually, I'm actually doing some work with him right now, and he was in a headband, as you would expect, and we were talking about scents, like what we're wearing, perfume wise.
But you know, I have to give Paul and Steve credit. It's kind of an Aerosmith kind of approach. That
Certainly
when
feels
they
that way right
when they wanted to tell me that I wasn't cut out for the gig to play
Yeah.
in Hot Hot Heat,
Yeah,
they showed up at Zulu unannounced where I worked at the record store, and they said, we want to take you out for lunch, you know. And they took me to Joe's Grill up the street.
Oh my god!
did you
and
think
they
you were
took-
gonna get made? Was it like a Pesci thing?
Well, we were booked to go on tour, man. We were already like booked to go on tour.
Luke's
And they
become
took-
Chris motionless
No,
because
it's
it's too
great.
much for him.
This is a good story, Luke.
Chris
You'll like the end. You'll like the ending. So they took me up to Joe's Grill and they said, you know, we got this other guy who's going to play bass, not you. And I'd done 2 weeks of rehearsals, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. And I said I was a bit
Feels
bummed
like it's
because
a big deal right now.
No. But here's the story.
Just a little trip
So
down
I
memory lane.
went back to Zulu and I told Dan Calusi.
Yeah,
I said, Dan, you know, I was going to be playing in Hot Hot Heat, and they said they don't want me. And Dan said to me, he said, Johnny, why do you, fuck it. He's like, why don't you and I start a band?
love it.
And that was the Shilohs. Were born that day, right
Wow.
after that lunch. There you go.
I was just working in a clothing store. I was been a hot air balloon at this time, practically.
Well, and here we are all today with a hit podcast.
Exactly.
exactly.
And on that
Yeah.
bombshell, I'm probably going to make some dinner because my rice is done. I got to make the rest. I got some broccoli and stuff.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
I'd love to do-
I've been worried about your pressure cooker.
I'd love to do. I've not got a pressure cooker. I'd love to do a part 2 on this one though, sometime soon. Now that you're back in action, Luke.
Yeah, we got Johnny's Wi-Fi worked out. It's all happening here.
Somewhat.
Yeah,
And I might have some rice myself.
I love that. Probably Mexi rice, right?
I'm free all week if you guys want to do part 2.
I'm wide open, pal. I'm out of the SSL console and I'm back into like my Ableton setup. So
I'll probably do more of I'll do more of like a jasmine rice.
Okay.
Kind of an Indian.
Well, that's less. Basmati is actually the least fattening.
Well, I've got brown basmati on the go here. I'm going to put some broccoli.
Brown basmati, that's pure. That's health. That's healthy.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that.
Rice is great whenever you're in the mood for 2,000 of something.
Exactly, and that's what I've often said.
Luke, you remember how I was all about rice not being good when I was down there recording with Dan Horn because Genghis Khan, like they were drinking milk.
Yeah.
From the horses and the Chinese army were eating rice, so they would lose and I was really about that, and then one day you told me, you were like, what why
well, I don't
with all the problems in the world, why are you taking on rice?
Well, I don't know, man.
Right
I mean,
now,
like,
I
pick your battles.
I don't want to kind of like, kind of cast aspersions, but I think it's a slightly different time in history to that. To Genghis Khan.
Well, yeah, but here's what I'll say, James, is that Dan Horn, he was eating a heavy rice diet.
Yeah.
And he would show up to the studio about 10 in the morning, and then by about 4 p.m., he'd have no energy. And I was on meat and milk.
Yeah, you were kind of on the
Genghis Khan.
The Bowie diet, the LA Bowie diet, the kind of like milk and peppers or whatever.
Well, just a lot of protein, and he would fade. He would fade out because he'd go to Lassen's and get like a rice
bowl,
dish,
poke bowl,
and he'd lose energy. And Luke just said, with all the problems going on in the world, why do you want to make rice your target?
So you were kind of like trying to get more like hours out of Dan. Is that what you mean?
Well, no, not
felt
even
like
that.
You're getting shortchanged. The rice.
If you already suffer from narcolepsy, maybe lay off the rice.
More
That's
speed.
Kind of what I was saying. Yeah.
And you got the last laugh, Sean, because you got that tight little Joe Perry physique.
It's true. And I wore a shirt like this for Perry tonight, but I don't have the wiriness that you have, Johnny, and I always envy it. I'm going to drink a couple of beers and have some rice right now, so I'll speak to you. I don't know how to fix that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, I love you so much, both of you, and we're going to do another Aerosmith episode, and I'm sorry about my technical shit. But we're gonna I'm gonna figure it out tomorrow.
We didn't even get into the Alicia Silverstone kind of period.
Well, I'm gonna leave all this in, and people will know what's coming up. So there you go.
Yeah, 100%.
2 hours, about 40 minutes of plugging and unplugging internet,
and that's kind of how we do it over here in the Impossible Way of Life. Listen to us on Sunday because it costs money to do that, and we need that.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye. We need to get Johnny a new router with that Patreon money.
It's not.
Well, exactly. That's right. Can somebody tell me what I need?
I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to just get expensive internet and stop.
Like I need to sell out to the fucking man. Right?
Yes, you do. Yeah. Sometimes
that's what you're saying.
That's what Aerosmith did, and it worked for them.
That's what being legit is all about.
That's what being legit's about, man.
But I thought
Aerosmith did it. It worked out really well. He married his daughter. That's how well it worked out.
I thought that. Look, I thought I was being punked because Surf told me.
You got punked.
Surf Internet told me they were stealing the Shaw network, and it was exactly the same, and I was paying less.
No, you got punked.
Know what I mean?
You got finessed once again, and this time it was by an internet company.
I would only do this for you guys, where I'd fucking sell out to the man and get TELUS internet. So I'm gonna do it.
I got it over here, man. I'm feeling great about it.
I'm sure you are.
An elevator.
Yeah. Okay, you can always come around here and just do it from here too. It's fine. Like, you know, if you need to save that money, it's okay.
I don't need. Well, I mean,
I
you're not
mean,
wrong.
Johnny, I was crying when I met you, and now I'm dying to forget you. So
That's so true.
there you
Okay,
go.
let's call
All right.
it.
All right,
Love you
Peace,
guys.
guys. Love you
Peace.
both.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.